Hey there, planners. Today I'm going to be doing a flip through of this journal, which I use to support all of my scripture study. This includes all of my reading notes from my 2-year Bible reading plan, as well as monthly gratitude, some memory keeping, writing out some prayers, all of that stuff. I'm going to be flipping through that today. So go grab your planners and let's get planning. So earlier this year, I introduced this Hobonichi Cousin as my 2024 scripture study journal. I've shared some setup videos and some initial flip throughs of how I was using it or planning to use it. Today I'm coming back with an update and just a flip through of what it looks like now that I'm a little over a quarter into using this journal. I can say right from the start, I absolutely love it. It has been fantastic. I'm excited about the prospect of finishing it and having this as a resource to look back on. And I'll talk a little bit about why as I get through this. I also wanted to share my Bible, which I got this Bible new this year to go along with this Bible journal and the scripture study that I'm doing. So I want to share that with you because it's been a really good resource as well. So I did share this Bible when I initially did the setup of this planner, but I wanted to share it again because I have just really thoroughly been enjoying it. So I got this Bible for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's large print. And my Bible that I've had forever and ever since I was a teenager, it is not large print. And so I just found myself not really needing larger print yet, but definitely seeing that I would need it at some point in time. So I wanted to go ahead and get a Bible. And it felt like as I started a 2-year read through the Bible reading plan, it was the right time for me to go ahead and get a new Bible. And so this one is a larger print, New King James Version from Thomas Nielsen Publishing. I will have the link down below. It's not sponsored. I just really like this Bible. I also love, you can see that it has the thumb tabs, so you can quickly get to certain sections. I just think the print is really nice. The font is really nice. The spacing between the lines is really nice. I also love that it has on every line, every verse, the beginning of that verse starts on a new line, so you can quickly find the verse that you're looking for. This has just been a really good resource for me, and so I wanted to share it. If you are on the hunt for a new Bible and feeling like you need something maybe with a little larger print, this would make a really good option. So that's that. Now I want to get into a flip through of my actual Bible journal that I'm using. So as I said, this is a Hobonichi Cousin, a 2024 full year Hobonichi Cousin. It's in a Moterm notebook folio. So I've had this for a few years. I believe these are still available, and I'll try to have it linked down below. I've got a ton of cards in here that I made myself. I have some videos about how I make those. I've got some stickers in here that I like using, and then I've actually got the Hobonichi in a clear cover, an A5 Midori clear cover with some scrapbook paper that I put on it, and then I'll kind of flip through the inside as well. So I use sticker paper. I've got some cards, things like that. Here I've got these are freebie from Coffee Monster Co. Little monthly calendars to make the year at a glance. More sticker paper here. And then I have my actual Bible reading plan. So this is a section, somewhat like a future log, where you have 6 months, January, February, March, April, May, June. And then you have the next 6, July through December. And then you have one line for each day, and then a little space at the top and a little space down here. The way I have been using this is I actually went through and wrote on every line the scriptures that I needed to read for that day. And as part of my 2-year reading plan. Now, you will see this looks absolutely horrible because I actually had to white out some stuff. This scripture reading plan actually had Proverbs and Psalms kind of mixed in with the plan. So you were reading them at the same time you were reading through the books. I found very quickly that I did not like that. So I pulled them out and I'm saving them to do at a later time. This is a 2-year reading plan. So you can see I whited them out and it just looks terrible. It makes this page so messy. I'll be so happy to get to this one where I'd already made the decision not to do that before I filled this out, so it won't be so messy. But the pace of this plan is really great. I will have this plan linked down in the description box below. Of course, you can start it anytime. I started it in January, but you could start this anytime. It's just 2 years, and the pace has been really manageable for me. I'm finding that the catch-up days that are allowed, so there are blank days throughout this plan, the catch-up days that are allowed give me plenty of space to be able to catch up. And I also use like extended Bible study times on the weekends, things like that. So I'm finding this to be very manageable. Across the top here, I'm also listening to a verse by verse, book by book podcast through the Bible, and that's from At the Creek, a church in Portland, Oregon, and Pastor Brett going, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. I will have that link down below as well. I've been actually doing that for a couple years now, but just kind of going through that. And it's great because he is in the New Testament, and we're actually in the book of John now. He's in the New Testament as I'm reading through the Old Testament, so it's this really great balance. And I listen to that podcast when I get ready in the morning, or when I'm commuting to work, or just whenever I have time, and I'm doing that about once a day, some period of time once a day. I'm listening to that podcast as well. So that's kind of the plan and how I track it. I just come in here and highlight when I've done the days. So that's working out really well. Now, this next section is my monthlies, and I'm going to flip to, here's a blank monthly. So this is the month of June. This is what it looks like before I come in. I am actually not going to show my monthlies that are already filled out because they're very personal to me. It is my gratitude, and I come in here every day, and when I start my Bible study, and I start by writing out just a little bit about what I'm thankful for the previous day. So for example, if today was Saturday, June 8th, I would be coming in and writing in for Friday, June 7th, what I was thankful for that day. And sometimes it's like a single word, and sometimes it's like a couple sentences written out really small here. The other thing I'm doing is I'm listing overarching prayer requests here on the side, on these bullets. Just people that I'm praying for, situations that I'm praying for, things I want to focus on, because it's a great place to remind me as I'm writing out my gratitude that I'm also praying over those situations or people as well. So that's how this is set up. These are the monthly Hobonichi Cousin kits from Coffee Monster Co. The first half of the year has been released. I will be picking up the second half of the year as soon as they're released as well. So now let me flip over to the weeklies. So this is another section that I'm not going to show. I'm not going to do a flip through of the weeklies, but you can definitely get the idea. So you can see I've kind of decorated ahead. These are blank weeklies, and you can see what they look like. So the way I'm using this is for memory keeping. I will come in here and write out specific prayers, things for this week, pulling from the monthly list, writing out specific prayers here. I will write out prayers on the days. I will also make little notes about things that happened, the way God showed up in my life, my family's life, little fingerprints of God going on throughout the week. And I am finding this such a valuable resource. It's a way of memory keeping, but it's also fantastic to be able to look back on and see how situations, how prayers evolve, how prayers are answered, and how God shows up for us. So this has been a really wonderful way to use these weekly pages. I also love using the decoration. It looks really pretty. And, it's just, I go ahead and pre-decorate. This is a great kit from Grand Plans. As you guys know, I love print and cut your own stickers. And Grand Plans on Etsy is a great source for those type of stickers. So that's how I'm using the weekly pages. Now let me flip back to the daily section. All right, so in the daily section, I have a couple of things to start with. So I marked the page with just a Bible verse, and then I pasted in two Bible reading trackers, one for the New Testament and then one for the Old Testament. I will not get through the entire Old Testament, the entire Bible this year. I'll only get through half, so I'll have half of this filled out this year, and then next year I am fully intending to get another Hobonichi Cousin and keep going, and I'll talk about why, but I'll have the second half filled out. Then I'm using this to track the Athy Creek podcast that I'm listening to, verse by verse podcast. So I'm up to 4 chapters into John at this point, completed, and I'll keep tracking that as well. So this is podcast. I will only be reading in the Old Testament this year, so this is Old Testament. Then I get right into the daily pages, and I just want to flip through the daily pages. So the way I have set this up is I will write at the top the book and chapters, sometimes book chapters and verses that I'm reading for that day. And that comes right from here, from my plan. I'll write it at the top. I'll give a little title to whatever this section is about. So, for example, this was Genesis 5 through 9, and this was really Noah and the flood, and the Noahic covenant. And then I'm just making notes and highlights about it, things that I want to come back and reference. You can see I've got, sticky notes and some doodles, and it's a creative place for me, but it's also key things that I am studying and study notes. And so I just wanted to flip through. I will have some things blurred out, like here is a whole section of a prayer that I felt called to write in the middle of my study. And so sometimes I will do that. I will just stop and write a prayer. But most of the time, these are just study notes. And so I'll have some things blurred out, but most of it I will not have blurred out. Most of it you'll be able to see. So you can see that there are some days where I have a ton of notes. Like this is a very, very busy page, about Abraham and how he was, based on his faith in God, it was accredited to him for righteousness. In Ishmael, like the ton of notes there. Sometimes I just have a small bit of study notes and a prayer. So it really depends on the day. What I love about this and have really enjoyed about this structure is, first of all, I'm kind of ignoring the dates that are printed on the Hobonichi Cousin daily pages. I'm just kind of ignoring that. It's more about having like that single page per day for those study notes assigned to that day. I also love the fact that I can come back and find things easy. So Isaac is here, and I know, that when I see Genesis 20 and 21 are the assigned reading that day, I can come to that day and see the notes that I made. So there's some really fantastic reference items in here that I know I will come back to, and some aha moments for me, things that stood out, and connections between Old Testament and New Testament that I'm able to make, and just kind of reference information. I've just found it so handy to have this, and I think about what a great study tool this will be in the future when I am studying in the New Testament, remember something that I studied in the Old Testament and want to come back and see what I wrote about that. It's just going to be so nice to have all of this here. So I'll just do a flip through so you can see. The other thing you might notice is the color scheme. So I started out just using random colors, and then I started realizing, I'm getting into a pattern here of rainbow colors. So I just started doing that to help kind of streamline and make it easier, because I don't want to spend a lot of time in the decoration portion of the daily pages. I don't want to spend a lot of time on decoration. What I really want to do is maximize the time I have for Bible study notes. So I make it easy for myself using using, you know, the rainbow colors, Roy G. Biv, and go through that in order. So blue, indigo, violet, and you can see the blessings of the sons of Jacob and, you know, writing them out. Okay, and then this is when I came to the end of Genesis. I just did a Genesis overview with key themes, things like that. And then I went into Exodus and I did a little intro to the book of Exodus, just what are the key themes, what's the structure and the parts. This overview and kind of book overview comes from the Bible Project website, and I'll have that listed down below. Another website that I am using is the Enduring Word commentaries. I also use Bible Hub. I'll have all of my supporting resources that I use for my Bible study listed down in the description box below, in case you are looking for some extra study resources. Every now and then I'll print something out. So for example, this is in Exodus 3 and 4, where Moses comes across the burning bush. And I just, like, you can write out the burning bush, but I just felt like it would be powerful to have a photo of that, because think about coming across a burning bush that is burning but not consumed, like, you know, just the visual impact of that. So I wanted to have something in here to kind of draw my attention to that. And so I printed this out and I just kind of tipped it in the top here, just taped it in so I can lift it up and read, you know, what is there. But every now and then I'll do that. I'll print out a map, or here's an example where I took a whole page and did a table of the 10 plagues. You know, what number the plague, how it sort of was a direct attack against one of the gods of Egypt, any notes I had about it. And then also there's this great study that you can find on the Bible Project website about how the plagues are acts of decreation. So when you compare them to the initial part of Genesis, where you have creation, God's creation going on in the first 6 days, you know, that were, the plagues are actually acts of decreation. So I thought those are really neat. So just having a table here, and see, this is what I'm talking about, great reference information. I know I'm going to think about that later and want to come back and say, okay, what were the plagues and what were the acts of decreation? How did those two relate? So the other thing I'm doing, and I'll show you this now, I've got this little tab back here. As I'm reading, so it is a 2-year reading plan, which gives me plenty of space. It's a good pace. But there are also things that I'm coming across that I'm like, oh man, I would really like to dig deeper into that, but I don't have time. If I'm gonna stick to this 2-year Bible reading plan and accomplish it on time, I don't have time to go deep dive into everything I would like to deep dive into. So I'm actually keeping a list, things to study more in the future. And I've just been writing out, this is a section of the Hobonichi Cousin called My 100. A lot of people use it for, like, you know, 100 books to read this year, or 100 things to do before I turn, you know, 50, whatever. I am actually using it just to track the things that I want to, that I come across, topics, themes, key ideas, you know, people, things like that I come across in my scripture study that I'm like, I really want to dig more into that in the future. I just list it out here. And so when I get to the end of my 2-year study, I'll have this list of things that I wanted to come back to and study some more. So, all right. Continuing to go through, you can see green, blue, purple, violet, all of that. Here are the 10 Commandments. I did a little drawing of Mount Sinai here. So, you know, I'm just having fun with it. Like, I find that when I start doodling, it's because I need to slow down and I'm actually processing something that I read, and something about just taking the time to do a little doodle gives me the time to really think about what I read and kind of process that. So 10 Commandments, the laws, the covenant. I did a little, this is a little pull out that I did. This is all about the tabernacle. So this is in Exodus 25, and I actually found a printout to scale of exactly how the tabernacle was set up, because in Exodus there are, very detailed instructions about the tabernacle, the holy items, all of that. So it was really helpful to be able to have a reference of, how that actually was set up. So I printed that out and again, just taped it in so I could fold it out. Again, great reference material for in the future when I want to come back to this. And then this was the priestly garments. There's a very large detailed section about the priestly garments, and so it was helpful for me to have this, which actually kind of draws out each piece and talks about, here's the breastplate of judgment, and here's the sash, and here's the tunic, and this is the shoulder pieces and the 2 onyx stones, all of that. It's helpful to have that as a reference, and I can still, see all of my notes here. So lots of little printables and things I think I might want in the future as well. Some days, like this Exodus 32 and 33, it took 2 full pages, which is why I say I'm just kind of ignoring the date. Sometimes it just takes me more space. And because I have those extra days, I'm not worried about running out of pages, because I know I'll have enough pages. So some days just take more notes. And then I don't know what happened here. It's a blank page. Because I finished the book of Exodus. And then here is my intro to the book of Leviticus. I took a couple pages and just did, here's a recap of where we are, who the author is, what the time frame is, here are the key themes, the structure, and just sort of the big idea, all of that about Exodus before I dove right in and started reading. And so I'll just keep going. Here is a table that I did about the different offerings. So there are lots and lots of references to offerings, the type of offerings in the Old Testament, particularly the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And sometimes they're called by different names, which can become very confusing. So I made myself a little table here, name the verses that it's first defined or spoken of, what the purpose of the offering is, what are the portions. So each offering has a portion for God, a portion for the priest, or a portion for the people, or some combination of those. And then what are some of the associated offerings? So some offerings go hand in hand; they're offered together. And this is has been a great reference. I come back to this when I run into different names or references to offerings throughout the Old Testament. I come back to this to remind myself what is that offering and what was the purpose. I'm sure you're starting to get the idea of how I use this. There are prayers sometimes. There are, feasts of the Lord. So there are certain celebrations and feasts that are referenced over and over again in Scripture. It is great to have them listed here, and I can come back and see what were they called, when were they celebrated, why were they celebrated, what did they mean, and also you'll see I have some purple notes here, and that is how they tie into the New Testament and how Jesus fulfilled the promise of each one of these feasts. So again, a great reference to have for future study. And here is the intro to the book of Numbers. Same thing, introduction, important characters, the breakdown, the key themes, all of that. I do get a little creative on these overview pages as I'm entering a new book. Okay, so lots of things here. I wanted to, there's a census in Numbers, obviously, hence the name, but there's also a lot of description about how the tribes of Israel are to line up around, how they're to be placed in camp around the tabernacle. So I wanted to have that as a visual. And then I actually found this really cool sort of authentic drawing, sort of map, old looking map. I thought that was really cool. So I put that in there too. And a bunch of notes here. This has been so good for me, and I really think, I think this is going to be a great study for me in the future. Oh, this is This shows the feast and the Jewish months and how they correlate to the to our current months, you know, April, May, June, July. And so you could actually, I loved this picture because it helps you understand, you know, when is the Feast of Trumpets or the Jewish New Year, when is that celebrated? It's actually it's between the month of Tishri and Elul, which is actually our September. You know, it helps you lay out and see the traditional celebrations on the modern calendar. So I thought that was really handy. And how I find these things is I just go Google searching, really. If I see something that I think, oh, you know, it would be good to have a visual reference for that, I just Google it. So I wrapped up the Book of Numbers with 14 lessons from the Book of Numbers. I thought this was my own sort of reflection on it, and this is the first time I had done this when reading, and it was very powerful for me to go through that. Here's the intro page to the Book of Deuteronomy, and then I start out with a map because in Deuteronomy they're, you know, getting the nation of Israel is getting ready to move into the promised land, or they're getting closer, and it was just helpful to have a map of at that time what the area would have looked like. And just continue to flip through so you can get a view. And then here's the intro to the Book of Joshua, and I have just started the Book of Joshua, so I don't have a whole lot of notes yet, but this is the intro, and I'm moving in. So that is my flip through. I went ahead and tabbed out all the months so they would be easy to get to. I don't have a lot back here, just some stickers and sticky notes, things like that. And that is what my Bible journal looks like. I know you guys were really interested when I first set this up, and I've had several questions to come back and do a flip through. So hopefully this gives you some ideas and inspiration. It doesn't really matter what your supplies are, what your tools are, you know, what your artwork looks like. You can see some of my doodles are quite silly looking. It doesn't matter. The main goal is to make sure you're in the Word every day as much as possible, and feeding your spirit and having that connection with the Lord. So hopefully this inspires you to do that. I would love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to Planning Annie for more content like this. And as always, thanks for planning with me.